Hey everybody, welcome to another JBoz gaming video. This is your host JBoz, and today I'd like to talk to you about a map called Mountain Pass. So let's get into it. All right, as with any map, you have three different kind of battle modes. There's standard battle, encounter battle, and then team destruction. With Mountain Pass, in standard battle, the two opposing cap circles are in the northwest corner and the southeast corner. Today I've just drawn green in the northwest and red in the southeast. There's also a encounter cap circle that you'll find located close to the middle of the map, or as close as you can get it in this map, and that's in the mountain valley, uh, in the middle of the water, and it's not deep water. It's just there's a little bit of water down here, and so on. So you'll find the encounter cap circle here with the flag. And of course, with team destruction, there are no caps, so it would just be the map itself. All right, so let's get into this. There are four ways to attack the enemy on this map. Technically, there's just two, but you'll see what I mean in a second here. So let's switch to green because I always make that mistake when we start. Let's go down the first attack route, which is the northern flank, basically to the eastern flank, and on to the enemy cap circle. Now, this direction, you're going down a long, large hill that slopes down basically into the valley and then comes around what I'll call their mountainside and through another little kind of mountain valley that then ramps up to their cap circle. So this begins to ramp up, and again, this is kind of a hillside here as well, right? So you kind of come down this hill, and then you go up this hill, and ultimately to their cap circle. The second route of attack is through and over the bridge. So if we go to the second option, we come around starting from our cap, we go into a mountain pass, we go across the bridge into another small mountain pass, around their side of their mountain on their side to the cap circle. And then there's really not an increase or a decrease of elevation here because you're basically going over a bridge and you're not actually going into the valley at any point. So you kind of stay on one level or one plane of height. Then, of course, the third attack direction is through the middle of the map or through the mountain valley, which goes down a large hill or embankment, and then comes across and goes up their side or their embankment of the valley through the middle of their plateau and onto their cap circle. So if you kind of think of it, this here is a hill, and this here is a hill, right? So you're going down a hill and then going back up a hill, but you're going through the valley, ultimately in the middle of the map. The fourth and final avenue of attack is on kind of the west side of the map to the south side of the map, where you go around this eastern flank, around your mountainside, and through the south flank, through their plateau middle area, and then on to their cap circle. So obviously that we've drawn four main routes of attack, but the actual cap is a little more squeezed than that because there's only really two ways to get to both cap circles. It's just that the second route splits into three different alternative routes, if that makes sense. So, but it is important to guard all four because if you just sit back and try to guard two approaches to your cap, then you basically give up all map control, which ultimately, if there's artillery, they would gain advantage and you would probably lose. But let's talk about how this kind of map plays. So on this particular flank, this northern to southern flank, Oh, by the way, Red's attack avenues are the same. Just reverse the green arrows, and you have Red's attack avenues. Um, so this side, this northern flank, if you will, plays where you have a lot of kind of brawling going on. There's a lot of tanks that will encounter each other, and they'll take up defensive positions and try to kind of win this flank. And so over here, what you have to be cautious of, in my opinion, is pushing this flank too far. So if we're green and we push up to this corner here, because we get a lot of speed going down this hill, and we can kind of really push this flank. If we get here, if we push up to here, and kind of stop the red from pushing further, because now we have shots as they come around their mountain here. If we stop the reds here, that's great. But the problem is we've actually opened ourselves up to potential crossfire if they place a tank here. So even though this is the bridge line, and yes, you might have defenders on the bridge line, you've opened yourself up to potential crossfire from these tanks, obviously front on, these tanks from a side angle, and if they do have lights or mediums that have pushed into the mountain valley, then they could be sitting down here as well and get shots on you. Higher tiers, you could even face shots from the red team's extended plateau. So this pushing up here, bad things can happen. Okay, so be careful when you push or push on this side of the map. You want to make sure that you're pushed back enough that you don't have to take on everybody at once, right? Which does allow the red team to push up to this corner. Now, if they push up to this corner, guess what? You can put tanks on the bridge, right? You can put tanks in the valley, and now they have crossfire, right? So even the red team has to be careful. Though it's a little harder to put them in a crossfire against the red team, it still can be done, and it's still not a good idea to push too far forward until you have more map control. You really have control of the bridge, or you really have control of the mountain valley. And to be honest with you, control of the mountain valley comes very, very late game. So, you might have tanks down here, but they don't have control of it. They're taking fire. They're trying to cover up. They're trying to hide because they're taking fire from lots of different directions. That's why, again, and we'll talk about this third route here in a minute, but when you commit to the mountain valley, it's a little precarious, and you have to be more advanced and more map aware. All right, so with the second line of attack, let's talk about that a little bit. Usually you're going to have defenders on both opposing sides here, and because this is so restricted, obviously, if there is an attack by either side, they kill the first tank or first couple of tanks, and now they've created a blockage in the road, or they can really slow your advance very, very quickly by just taking out your lead tank in the attack. So you'll see tank destroyers and heavies maybe defend the bridge. You don't need very many defenders to hold the bridge, but you do need this line defended. And the same is true of this line as well. Getting too far up or pushing too far up too soon could expose you, obviously, to multiple crossfire. So putting a tank destroyer here when you're trying to put this guy in a crossfire is fine, but you yourself are in a crossfire. You'll be taking fire from them, and you could be taking fire from other people that have pushed further down the bridge and the bridge line, and now you're in a crossfire. So you have to be careful pushing too far up, even on the bridge line. So a lot of times you'll have, again, mediums and heavies defending the bridge. They'll take up positions behind the rock maybe, or more around this corner here, and then come and jump out and spot and shoot down, right? Because the heavy can maybe do side scraping here or along the rock. The reason I hesitate around the rock is because, as we'll see in a minute when we start talking about different tank types, Arties will have pretty good visibility and opportunity down some of these lines of attack, and you'll find that you're not already safe if you're really kind of in direct line of the bridge. So, same is true of the green team. They're going to have heavies and tank destroyers kind of aligned here, and you don't need many of them to hold the bridge, right? But you'll have folks over here doing that. Okay. So the third line of attack, you'll have defenders for the green team take positions here and here. You'll have people take positions around this rock in the bushes. All good stuff. Because you've got to defend the middle. And by putting defenders over here along this mountain, whether it's one or a couple, if you can actually push over, like if let's say they're not coming through the middle, they're just holding the middle, and you know that now it's just a snipe war, you can back off and also hold this eastern flank, or help hold this eastern flank if somebody tries to push around your side of the mountain. And so you'll have defenders on this side take up positions here. And on this side, the red side, the same thing. You're going to have people take up position here and here around their hills. This position is unique for the red side because not only can it defend the middle, it can also help defend the bridge. So technically, the green team would be in a three-way crossfire if you had reds in those positions, right? So just know that you have actually I lie, it's a four-way crossfire because you can even have red sitting here shooting onto the bridge from the southern flank. Okay, so that's why pushing way too far up on Mountain Pass, bad things happen. It may look like you're winning, but then all of a sudden the team dies out. That's because they pushed too far forward. And you'll see that happen. Watch next time you're playing a match with Mountain Pass and see what happens when your team pushes too far up too quickly. And so you'll have defenders obviously in the middle. Now the advantage, this map's counter, it's not the same advantage. It's a different advantage for the green team. The red team has this advantage that they have a position here to control the bridge as well as straight in front. But even though the green team doesn't have that advantage, what they do have is closeness to their middle position, defensive position, where the red team is slower or a little bit further away, which makes them a little slower to get into their middle positions, what that allows the green team to have is spotting advantage early and potential early damage because what you can do is if you have a fast tank destroyer or a fast medium that can get into these positions early, get spotting going, and you can literally watch the red team come through their middle because you might be able to spot all the way back to their kind of mountain here. You'll be able to have this visibility, and at this point, if you can see this area as they're traversing to get in these other positions, you'll have early shots on them if you're in these positions here. But you need to have good concealment if you're going to snipe from bushes. Otherwise, you'll also be counter spotted and you'll be susceptible to defensive fire from tanks that have made it into defensive position. So it'll be brief, but you'll have early opportunity here if you're the green team or any kind of northwestern spawn point because you'll just be able to get to your spots a little bit quicker than the other guy. Now, the fourth avenue of attack is also important to guard, and so a lot of times the green team will obviously put people in this position to hold this flank. They also have the opportunity to put tank destroyers up here. I'm sorry, it should be green. They'll have an opportunity to put tank destroyers up there, though I don't really recommend this because if they don't come this flank, this is a wasted gun. But if you're falling back and need to kind of defend these three areas, then obviously putting someone up here is good. You'll also have artillery up here that can also shoot down this western flank, and that's pretty typical where an arty will set on this map. We'll get into where already set and the already safe zones, if you will, or already danger zones. But this would be definitely an already danger zone, at least up to a certain point. This rock is about as far as you can advance before you're in an already danger zone of a green artillery. So for red, you're really, if you're pushing around here, that's about as far as you want to push up. For green, you can push up all the way till you start to come around this mountain. And again, the same thing. They might have arties that can guard this southern flank. So if you push up too far, then you're susceptible to arty fire. So this becomes an arty unsafe zone. So if you stick to the back side of the hill here before pushing on around, you should be fairly safe from artillery fire. Okay. So that's the different kind of lines of attack and the defenses of them. Obviously, the red team we didn't quite talk about completely, though I did say that they would put people here to spot the middle. They too can also defend this side. Now, what you'll see happen is if the green does push hard here, they'll react. They don't necessarily, the red doesn't necessarily have to put someone specifically here to guard this, but you can. I think it's a good idea to have one of your red teammates, if you're red, have a teammate here that is spotting. Maybe he's coming up here trying to spot, comes back down here, tries to spot, just to know that they're on this side and they've advanced that far can be helpful. Okay, let's talk about tank types now. Lights and mediums are really kind of the key to this map because you need information to know when to push. If you've seen my video on controlled aggression, this map kind of exemplifies it. In the early game of this map, you need to be controlled and disciplined because you're probing for weaknesses. So with 4 avenues of attack, and obviously not all 15 players are communicating, which they were, but they don't typically, you'll have one of these flanks overloaded. Now, on the one hand, overloading a flank is what you want because if you're that team, you want to push that flank as long as it's not well defended. But on the flip side, if you know one flank is overloaded, then you know another attack spot is under defended. And at that point, you want to push on that weak spot. So, for example, let's say the team has put a lot of tanks, and I see this a lot. They put a lot of tanks on this line. And let's assume that the red team has put maybe 5 or 6 tanks down here on this flank. Well, that means they maybe only have 1 or 2 here, 1 or 2 here, 1, 2 here. So that means that you can probably, and I guarantee you their arties are probably sitting back in the back. So that means you can probably push one of these other 3 flanks pretty hard. And I typically would advise from outside in, meaning I would first explore pushing the outer flanks first and then the other flanks second. The reason being this flank, this bridge flank, this bridge attack line is narrow and easily blocked if you do try to push it. Let's say they only have 1 tank over here. All he has to do is take out 1 tank to really slow your advance. Now, you can still probably overwhelm him and breach this line, but it's pretty hard to do. This is probably the hardest line to advance in the game. This line is probably the easiest, but what you don't realize is it's the easiest to advance to this point, and then you're all in a counter, a crossfire counter probably attack, and then it's even harder to go back. So this line is maybe the easiest to push down, but the problem is getting up the other side or then getting back in a real kind of a safe position is very, very difficult to do. So if you go this way, you've got to be committed. Otherwise, you get in this, spot, I spot you, you spot me, really nothing happens, and then I run around in this mountain valley for a while until either my team helps me out or all my team dies, and then the enemy has map control and eventually kills me. So this is a Mountain Valley is a risky proposition, and to play in this area, you have to be pretty mobile tank, and also very skilled at driving and understanding map awareness. Because in here, you've got to know where your potential shots are coming from, and you got to make sure that you're constantly covered up and constantly aware of where you need to reposition to spot other tanks. Now, you'll see light tanks, especially higher tier, run across, sit on this and spot, back down, spot, back down. They're trying to get spots on and spotting damage on folks that are over here on their team trying to kill the defenders over here on the plateau. Now, what these guys don't realize, and if the team they're playing is disciplined, that's why I talk about control a lot. If you're disciplined, then you're not shooting these guys. You're just waiting, either covered up, you cover yourself up so you don't get spotted and can't be hit by the arty, which again, there's arty safe zones here, so there's ways you can cover up and not get hit by the arty. You just back away a little bit. And as soon as you do, inevitably, they either push too far up and then you have shots on them without risking shots or counter shots from their allies, or they eventually get tired and back away and then try to get up their flank, which then you can pull back out and shoot them. But disciplined players, controlled players, will always try to take out the backline fire before they try to take on the light tanks up front, because these are the heavy hitters back here. These are just annoying and are trying to bait you into a combat situation that's not advantageous for you. So that's, you got to play this area disciplined. Same here, got to play it disciplined, because you'll see people do that on this side as well. The greens will push across and try to get people out into the middle. But these two lines are the most risky as far as pushing the attack. But when you have an overloaded position, like in our example here, this would be the first avenue that I would explore as to how well did they defend this side. So if you push as a green tank, if you push around here and check to see, they only have one, and you push up further to see if they have anybody else, you have the opportunity to take 5 or 6 tanks here, overload this side, right, and push around, and then you can take away at least one defensive position right away, and potentially 2 if you're able to capture this side of the map, right? Now, you do need to know that to do that, the artillery might have opportunity here, because this zone here is already unfriendly or danger zone, because as soon as you push around this hill, arty will potentially have shots on this side of the map. Arty for the red team, or arties, will be up here on their kind of large hill on their mountainside. Green have a large hill, and that's where their artillery will set. You will also find artillery setting near the cap or even on the cap, because there's some advantages to that versus setting up on the hill. Up on the hill, you do have some shots on the bridge, but it doesn't give you deep, what I'll call kind of deep position, where if you sit an arty down here, now you have shots down this flank. You also have shots to the bridge. You have shots to the middle, and you still can shoot into if they do progress past this mountain here, you can still get shots on and somewhat defend the west flank. Here, you shoot the west flank clearly, and that's the advantage of being up here. You shoot down this line and the middle, but what you can't do is you cannot defend the northern flank at all. Okay, you have no shots on the northern flank. Where same thing here, you have no shots on your eastern flank if you're setting up here, but you have shots on the other 3 routes of attack. And so that's why if there's 2 arties, you'll probably have one up here and one on the cap circle. Sometimes you still have people don't know how to play it as an arty, and maybe they're not communicating, and they both set up here, giving up any shots on this. And this is late game progress anyway. You would have to break this line, and it's usually rare that people just break through this line right away. It usually takes some mauling, brawling over here to win this flank. So, but that's why you set an arty here, is to get you opportunity to defend as well from this side. Okay, so that's the arties. That's where they set. The tank destroyers we've kind of talked about. Obviously, they can set as long as they're setting back a little bit. They can set really on any one of these avenues where there's cover or a hill to be able to fire. We've talked about light tanks and medium tanks, as they are key to probing each one of these flanks to see how far the enemy is pushed up, and more importantly, how many people are on that flank. And as soon as they have determined a weak spot, then that's when you go into aggressive mode. That's when you attack. And so in this case over here, if you're going back to our example where maybe they overloaded this side, you have an opportunity to attack this flank. Then you get aggressive with 5 or 6 tanks, and you attack this flank. Typically, these are lower risk opportunities because it takes so few tanks to defend these routes that even if you've overloaded this side, it's going to cost you quite a bit, and it's going to take you a little bit of time to win those flanks. So that's why I say work the outer flanks first, and then work the inner flanks second as a priority of attack. All right, so that's lights, mediums, or tank destroyers, and heavies. I kind of alluded to it, but they kind of go over here. They brawl here. They can be used to hold down the bridge and the outer flanks, because you'll have heavies maybe sit here to hold this flank late game. So heavies can be used around. Now, heavies definitely do not need to push up too soon, too quickly, because if they put themselves in arty dangerous zones, they don't have the speed to get out of arty dangerous zones very fast, and they will lose either their life or their hit points pretty quickly. So keep that in mind. If you're a heavy tank, you can play this map well, but you just have to be arty aware and know how far to push and when to push forward when your team has breached a flank. Artillery, we've talked about where they sit, so I think we've covered all the tank types. So some unique gameplay. We've talked about the lights pushing into the middle and what that risks, potential isolation where you're stuck in Mountain Valley, just as a reminder. Yeah, that's it. I think that's it for this map in general. And so if this has been helpful, please hit that like button. If you like what we're doing here at JBoz Gaming, and we've earned your trust, please hit that subscribe button. That helps the channel grow. And of course, if you want to see when the next video is put out or uploaded, hit the bell icon, as that will send you a notification when I post the next video. All right, guys, good luck, and we'll see you on the battlefield.